So, this past year, I've ridden my bike a lot. Last August, I started south on the Dalton Highway, which is the northernmost road in North America. And in February of this year, I set off from California toward the Canadian border, eventually ending my route in Seattle. These trips were spectacular. But even so, there was an easy to notice 2,000-kilometer gap between the two routes, and this made me very angry. So with the goal of filling in that gap on my ever so lacking atlas, I flew up to Victoria, British Columbia, from where I would ride the remaining mileage to Alaska and the Yukon. Okay, so before we get started, say hello to Jeff. Hi, Jeff. This is my dad. Hi, Jeff. To be honest, I wasn't sure if he would make all the miles. He decided to join me several months after I had arranged everything for this trip. But hey, he wanted in, so I agreed. After sleeping in the airport, we started riding on southern Vancouver Island. And almost immediately, my father started having issues with his derailleur, which had been bent during shipping. So the pace of the first day was slow, and with a ferry ride off of Vancouver onto Salt Spring Island, then another back onto Vancouver Island, the riding was even more broken up. At day's end in Nanaimo, we rolled into a bike shop and fixed the warped derailleur. By the way, Salt Spring Island was a pretty neat place. I've never seen so many cyclists in my life.
What's up, everybody? Woo!
And I actually saw a snake there.
A snake in Canada. I thought I'd never see the day. Woo!
It's probably the most beautiful thing that I saw this entire trip. Actually, just kidding. It was this. Oh, wait, I think that might be Bakersfield. Anyway, we were on Vancouver Island and we were riding north. Vancouver Island is huge. For reference, it's more than 3 times the size of the big island of Hawaii, and it takes about 7 hours to drive. As such, it feels no different than the mainland, and in many ways it feels indistinguishable between the rest of Canada and the United States. In order to get off the busy highway and into some more picturesque settings, I had decided to cut inland through Strathcona Provincial Park and to Nimpkish Road, a 70-kilometer logging trail full of rocky climbs and pothole-ridden gullies. Due to fire danger though, logging trucks weren't in operation, so we didn't have to deal with traffic or dust or having rocks thrown at our faces. This route added about 20 miles and thousands of feet of extra elevation gain, which prompted my dad to ask why we had taken that way. I said something like, it seemed more scenic, interesting, I don't know. And then I kept on riding.
Anyway, it's been a great day of riding. This road has been beautiful. A little bumpy, a little dusty, but couldn't have asked for more. I didn't expect it to be quite this good, so yeah. And I'm glad my bike survived as well. Little Red Riding Hood. I think that's what I'll call it, Little Red Riding Hood. I think that's a pretty good name.
Alright, and here we are, done with Vancouver Island after only 315 miles. Easy money. The forest had become noticeably more lush in the northern quarter of the island, and we rolled into Port Hardy with enough time to meet some friends and enjoy our evening there. It wasn't a late night out though. After a few hours of sleep, we woke up at 5 and rode to the ferry terminal, where we would travel back to mainland British Columbia at Prince Rupert. Yeah, so the ferry ride was gorgeous. 16 hours of coastal inlets and untouched island terrain. The boat landed at Prince Rupert at 11:30 p.m., and we rode to a hostel through the first rain of our trip. Actually, just to stay on that note, this is the rainiest region in North America, and all Canada gave me was 1 day of rain this entire trip. 1 day, not including this night at Prince Rupert. And it was hot. It was over 90 degrees Fahrenheit for a few days of riding. Anyway, we stayed in that nice little hostel for the night, and the cool air and cloud cover around Prince Rupert was a great change of pace.
Started way too late today out of Prince Rupert, but on the road now and heading towards Harris. Probably get there tomorrow. And then up to Cassiar. Should be a gorgeous stretch of road.
I think my dad said that this was his favorite stretch of riding for the trip. It definitely was one of my favorites too. For 200 kilometers, we pedaled alongside the Skeena River, which at one point we crossed by ferry just for the heck of it. And there we met Scott, who is the operator. He works the ferry in the summers and then goes to warmer places for winter. I think that's called a snowbird. He actually lived in Florida for about 15 years. But the Florida man got too crazy, so he moved back to Canada. So yeah, check out the Usk Ferry. Scott will take you across the river and then back again. Super cool. And then other than that, I swam in the river, which was icy. But hey, I mean, look at that shot. I've been really trying. Pause. Anyhow, we were just riding around, doing this, doing that, going to Canadian Tire. It was Canada Day, so went to Tim Hortons. Yeah, riding my bike.
so another day on the road. We've got about 22 miles, 40 kilometers to the junction with Highway 37, the Stewart-Cassiar Highway. And now it's kind of a weird part of our trip. I've been wanting to go to Stewart and Hyder, Alaska. So that's kind of what I want to do. But my dad and I are going at different paces. I don't know if he's going to be able to make it there. So I think our paths may diverge for a few days. But yeah, it wasn't really my plan to split up with him at the same time.
3 days later.
All right, so started about 3 o'clock today. Ridden about 60 miles down the road to a place called Belle 2. And I'm gonna see if my dad's there.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more, including the next video where I try to track down my dad and ride into the Yukon.